Hello, everybody, and welcome to Adobe Live here on VHATS for our Masterclass Wednesday with the one and only Emily Theodore.
Hey, Maddy.
Hey, it's so good to have you back. Emily, you and I were together on a stream back in June or July last year?
It was last summer. It was with FemType, and we did a festival poster. And it's crazy how quick this year has gone. So here we are again this spring.
I know. It's, you know, I'm looking forward to this because 36 Days of Type is something that I'm seeing so much of over Instagram. There's lots of people that are entering, lots of people doing amazing things. And so we can definitely get into, you know, what is the 36 Days of Type? If any of our audience are entering this today and want any tips, here's the right place because Emily's going to take you through, you know, creating a letter on Instagram, not Instagram, on Illustrator.
Yeah.
And yeah, I honestly just get involved, everybody. We'll be chatting in Behance today, and it's really good to see so many familiar faces in there already. So I can see Gareth, I can see Jackie, hey Oliver, I can see Sandrine as well. I'm not going to be drawing along with Emily today. We'll save that for another stream where you can prepare yourselves with sunglasses, as my my drawings are often very bright. But it's so good to see everybody. And just before we went live, Emily and I were just saying, and I'm sure everybody here would agree because I've already seen Gareth talking about it in the chat. What is this crazy weather we are having at the moment?
I don't know. I don't know where you guys are in the world, but I'm sure everyone's having their own like winter or summer or in between. So yeah. Today, so for example, Monday and yesterday, it was like the sunniest it was in London after like so many weeks, and then it would snow for 5-10 minutes in the middle of the day. Yeah. So we don't know. We're just like not even checking the weather because just be prepared for all rain or shine or snow.
Yeah. Yeah, sun and snow in the same day, only in the UK right now. I mean, this is crazy. But no, it's so good to have everybody here. And as I said, really looking forward to getting into type. And actually, for everybody that doesn't know Emily, because I've seen Emily joined us on the stream last year for FemType. Emily, tell us a little bit about, you know, what it is that you do, share some of your work. I mean, it'd be great to share, you know, get everyone up to speed on who you are.
Sure. I'll pull out my Instagram as I speak. So essentially, basically, I'm a graphic designer and I dabble a lot in illustration as well. And I'm really big on type and on lettering. So it's all kind of a mix. I do a lot of branding projects and I work a lot with restaurants and entertainment and commercial types of projects. So I guess it's all allowed to be very colorful and fun. So I'm just kind of going through some of these images. So when it comes to type, I really like hand lettering, so I'll do that digitally, but sometimes I'll also create some more, vector lettering on Illustrator. So it's kind of a mix, and I'm just, it's all a lot of reds and pinks as well. I like my lipstick colors. Like retro kind of influences as well. So yeah, if this is your kind of vibe, just connect, and it's cool to see what other people do as well. So
definitely. I love how you draw women, by the way. You draw these very
I like doodling so much, and I haven't found a way for it to kind of fit in with my graphic style, but here and there I'll throw in a doodle, and it's usually of a woman or her face. So if you like those as well. So I guess it's a mix. I guess you could say it's graphic design with a bit of illustration thrown in here and there. And there's definitely a big love for type and lettering, which is why we're here today.
Definitely. And talk to us about 36 Days of Type then, because this is not the first year that you've done this, right? This is something that's going on, right?
Yeah, this is not the first year of 36 Days of Type. I think it's in its 8th year, I want to say, which is crazy. And every year there's thousands of submissions. So let me just click on the actual page. You can go to 36daysoftype.com just to see the full challenge and what it's all about. But it's organized by a design studio in Barcelona. And the idea is every year there is a brief for each day for 36 days to submit one letter or number. So it takes you from A to Z of the Latin alphabet, and then all the numbers. And then also they've recently added that ampersand on an extra day, which is nice because we all love that character. So if you haven't participated before, I definitely think it's always open for you to try. It might not be every day. A lot of people can't commit to doing every day for 36 days. So it might just be like, your favorite letter, but definitely stay kind of connected. They've got this hashtag 36 Days of Type, so you can always see what people are posting. And they've also got the submission guidelines here. So remember, if you're posting an A or a B or whatever letter day you're on, just remember to put the right letter or number after the hashtag. And then that way everyone can see on the same day the right letter, so we're all on the same page. And that's
Tim's
it.
Put the link. Tim's put the link in the chat for everybody if you want to get started. And I think they're only on day 3 now, right? Is it C that if you scroll down,
it is C. Yes, we've got the calendar right here, which is really nicely organized. So yeah, that's today for the 7th of April. So if you've got the time today, you can definitely join in with the C. And I heard as well that there's this theme that Adobe is running as well. It's a new challenge theme. Am I right?
There's a 36 Days of Type challenge, and I think that they're giving away, I think it's 6 Creative Cloud subscriptions for the top entries. So it's definitely worth participating for sure.
Yeah. So see, you can say like that's for challenge or whatever. And yeah, that's really cool. So you can participate, and then of course, as you said, the 6 entries that are selected will get 1 year's worth of subscription to Creative Cloud, which is pretty awesome.
It's so good. And Tim's put in the chat, 6 times here, 12-month subscriptions, but no pints.
We all need one of those.
We do. Brilliant. So this is great. I mean, and as I said, I've been seeing so much of this online. I've seen this in blogs, and look at all of this here. You can see here, look.
Yeah, this is the page. Yeah. This is the Instagram page, 36 Days of Type, and we're just going to start, scrolling through. So these are the ones that are picked out by 36 Days to showcase. And of course, if you go to the hashtag, you'll see all the entries. Yeah. And it's so crazy just to see how many types of creatives get involved. And it doesn't mean it's even exclusive to digital work or softwares. There's like paper art, and there's sign writing, and it fits over like type design and illustration and 3D art and so many styles. So you do not have to be a type designer to get involved, or a graphic designer. Any way that you want to express yourself or a style through these letters, it's yours to jump into. So
yeah, and it's so good to see so many variations in the way that people are doing it. As you said, you don't need to be an expert in one thing or another. There are some really cool 3D letters and things in there that I've seen this year.
Yeah, I love 3D. I just like that. They just always look so cool. And then when you also get entries that are based purely on the letter form, and there aren't any effects, and there's nothing added to that. It's just a clean shape of a letter that's been designed for this. That's also equally beautiful. So again, it just really depends what you want to focus on. But we'll go through that today. So if this seems just so open-ended that you're not really sure where to start, which is easy to feel sometimes, then we'll talk through some ways to approach the whole challenge. But if anything, it just means there's so much space for everyone to try something and get involved with it. So
definitely. And for everybody that's, tuned in today to us on Behance, we're chatting in Behance. If you're watching on YouTube, come to Behance to chat. And we always have the chat in Discord as well, where you can share some of your work. So it'd be really good if you are drawing along with us today and creating a letter, get it in Discord at the end. And I think Tim can put the link to Discord in the chat for you today, as we should definitely see what everyone's up for creating. It's always good to get involved.
Yes, for sure. And I think no matter what, even if it's one letter from the whole 36 days, or even if it's not something really crazy in 3D, you will guaranteed learn something from it. So there's nothing to lose, I think, for anybody.
I'm going to have a go at ampersand. I absolutely love that.
Yes,
honestly,
it's the best. It's my favorite one.
Yeah, love it. Love it.
Amazing.
Fabulous. Well, should we jump in? Shall we get started today and have a...
Yes, let's do that. I'm going to open this up. So it's all based on 36 days of type. And I guess I'll go into my full screen mode. All good?
Fab.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So, as I said, it's a very open-ended challenge, but it's very inclusive. This community, the creative community, is super supportive. So there's no reason for you not to try it out, whether it's today or next week or whenever. So I personally think it's really helpful if you are just starting out and you don't have any experience with lettering or type. It's kind of nice to have a bit of background on actual typography. So we'll do some very basic tips for what you can think about when you approach your own type, or if you're using someone else's type. So let's get in. So you could say that from most of the typefaces that are out there, they pretty much fall into these 4 categories. So it might be with your own type design if you're, sketching a letter for today, or it might be when you're looking at other people's letters, but it's helpful to think what group of these it usually falls in. So I'll just run you through what kind of makes these different, and so you can think about it. So you've got your serifs, so that's on the left there. And these are seen as more traditional and I'd say like classical styles for type. So they're based originally on kind of like a calligraphy that was used. And these are where the first typefaces came from. So you can see, for example, how that C ends, the terminals here, they've got these angular strokes. So it gives serifs these really nice details, which are nice to look at and play with. And then usually serifs also have a nice contrast. So this rounded downward stroke, it's much thicker than the top and bottom of this C. So that's usually what kind of helps characterize serifs. So it's kind of seen as a more elegant style for type. So these are really beautiful. And then in contrast, you've got what's called a sans serif. So it literally means without serif. And they're seen as more contemporary because they've sort of dropped all of these traditional detailing. And you could say that they're usually chunkier. Again, they can be very tall, they can be round, but in general, they're bolder. And it doesn't even have to be this thick. You can get very like thin strokes for a sans serif as well. But they feel cleaner. So I think naturally that's how more people will maybe sketch a letter. It might be in this kind of style. Then you've got your script. So of course, these are based more on handwriting. And you've got a lot of variation with script. And they're just really beautiful as well. So it can range from something like this chunky 70s style disco lettering. And then it could also include, calligraphy for wedding stationery, that kind of thing. So a big range there to explore. And then you've got this fourth group, which can pretty much be anything, and they're called display typefaces. And these are not usually meant to be read in really big chunks of text, so they'll work better for titles, for maybe logos, short phrases. They're kind of there to be seen more first before they're read necessarily. So a lot of the lettering, like you'll see on 36 Days of Type, will probably fall in that group. But again, it can relate to any of the other three as well. So it's nice to think about what type of letter you're doing, or if you see other people's letters that you like or don't like, maybe you can start to pick up on why it is, or like what kind of letter, you know, it's built on. So
yeah, it's good to see. It's good to have the overview of all of these four, because I really love it on a poster or something you see that catches your eye when you see like the display, you know, font, and then a good mixture of all of the others as well. Like having a variety on a page, I think is really good.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, usually like in a post or you know, in a publication of some kind, you might get a different range of styles. So it's quite unique with this challenge that you're looking at one letter and then giving it the full weight of a piece. So yeah, there's always it can just range from being super clean and simple to something being very detailed and, you know, it can have a totally different shape.
Yeah.
So, whoa, it's moving. You guys see that?
Yeah.
It's not going to go on loop though. So when you're starting out, I think first a really helpful question to ask yourself is, are you going to create your own letter, or are you going to use a letter from someone else's typeface or font? And they're both valid and they're both okay. But just think about maybe why you're doing each one. So with the lettering, I've shown this really beautiful example of an A from Carmen. And by the way, I've put the handles on all of these references so you can screenshot and look up all these artists online. So this A, it's a letter form that she designed, and she created a whole series based on these really unique shapes, which are so beautiful. And that's kind of what makes each letter and piece unique and beautiful, like just really nice to look at as a group. And then you've got on the right, for example, Matt does really cool GIFs and animations. Definitely check out his work as well. And he chose to use letters from existing typefaces and then animate them. So I think that's a really good point to think about. If you want to engage with this challenge, you don't have to think about designing your own letter if it's not something that you're as comfortable with. So if you come from a background that's from animation or 3D art or motion, you can always think about using an existing typeface that you like, and then adding another level to that and giving it a new kind of character or personality. So that's totally valid as well. And to add to that, if you do that, then I think it's also really important maybe to just share with people what typeface you're using and who's designed it. And if there's a specific reason why you chose it for that day, then maybe just share that as well, because it's always something I think people like to hear. So if you chose like a really retro typeface because you wanted to, I don't know, add some glitchy motion to it, just share, you know, you really like the vibe of how, you know, it was designed, and that's why you're using that. So
yeah, it's always good to call on the original source, isn't it? The original creator.
Definitely. So yeah, and you'll see like both of these routes in the challenge. So again, there's more than one way to connect with typography.
Oh, totally. And Gareth in the chat has said that he's creating animations for his 36 days in Cinema 4D and rendering them out in After Effects.
That is
Gareth,
awesome.
You've got to share that. I want to see.
Yeah, I want to see too. There's so many programs. But yeah, Cinema's a great one. It's yeah. It's not Adobe, but it's likely you'll bring something into Adobe at one point or another. So
hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I did these last year, and I think it was a really great way for me personally to drop my fear of getting more creative with sketching out letters. So in the end, I ended up doing the whole, I didn't do the numbers, I just did A to Z. But I think I had this sort of maybe fear of letting loose. And I found this was a really helpful way just to break free from that, as I said. So it was a grid for each letter that I did. So 9 letters every day. I didn't end up sticking to the designated days. So it ended up just like sprawling like into May or something. But if you find that you maybe just want to find a different way of coming up with ideas, I really recommend this kind of route. So it doesn't have to be a grid of 9. It can just be like 3 for each letter, but just to push yourself in that kind of exercise, I think really helps you start thinking about details and styles. And you might be the kind of person who needs to look at references first, and then that helps spring you onto coming up with your own designs. Or you might want to just sketch anything that comes to your head, and then you might get to a point and decide, you know what, I need to actually look at references to start to balance you know, how I'm developing here. But I think you kind of need both in a way. So you'll just kind of find your own way of, you'll pick what you need from both. So references, but also experimenting on your own.
And Daria says, wow, your type letters are amazing, which they are.
Thank you.
Love these. I mean, you're so good, Emily. I love the fact that in you can see that there's a real feminine kind of presence for these, you know? And I just love the bounciness of them, especially the U's at the bottom. I absolutely love that one, bottom left.
Bottom left. Yeah. I guess these are what I'd call more lettering. So maybe just to recap as well, which might be helpful, between type design and lettering, it's not exactly the same thing. So type design will be a way of creating a letter for the whole alphabet and all the characters actually, which can include numbers and all the glyphs, which will follow the same style. Whereas lettering will be focused on that specific letter or word or phrase. So it might not be exactly the same thing. If I were to take, I don't know, the top left B, and then use that style to create the full set of characters, then that could essentially be a type design. And then I could then turn that into a font, and it could be something you could, you know, type with one day, hopefully. But I guess I'd call this more lettering, and that's fine too. And they both, I think, respect each other, just because these are focused on their own as individual letters, so each one has its own life. But yeah, as I said, like if you just don't know where to start, just don't even hold back. Just start doing it by hand or whatever. If you feel more comfortable on a software, just jump into it and impress yourself with a lot of versions of a letter.
Definitely. And then when you said that, so you do a lot of like doodling, a lot of sketching. Do you doodle on an iPad or is it old-fashioned pen and paper? What's your go-to?
I guess it depends where I am when I start it, but I love working on the iPad if I have it. So I use Procreate, but Adobe Fresco is also really great for sketching. And I think actually anything that you prefer to sketch on, it's up to you. But the nice thing about doing it digitally is you could add, you know, another layer to it and do a more refined sketch and then keep going. So all of these letters, for example, were scribbles, and then I made a new layer and did more refined versions of each one. So I think they're helpful for that reason. But of course, if you have pen and paper and, you know, you're on the train or wherever you are, like, there's no reason to not sketch as well. So, but yeah, I think sketching is really important. It's not important for everyone, but I think for my process, it's something I really need. So, yeah.
Completely agree. Completely. Yeah, these look awesome. I mean, honestly, so good. I just caught that there's a cocktail there in the bottom middle of the
I was like, I'm running out of ideas by this point by the time we got to you.
Love it.
Thanks, Maddy. So starting off with 36 days, again, there's so many ways to approach it. And every year, just the range of disciplines and softwares and types of creatives who get involved, it just gets bigger and bigger every year. So that's just more, inspiration for you. So that's a good thing. So I think kind of one thing to think about if you're starting off is potentially giving your series some kind of concept or route. It's definitely not required. You can have a very random style and color scheme and feel for each letter, and they don't have to, correspond at all. But if you're starting out and you feel like it's just a bit open-ended and you're not really sure how to tie them in together, then I think it can be helpful to maybe think about aesthetically what could connect them. And the other nice thing is if you do manage to complete the whole series, then there's something also satisfying about seeing them fit in some way, so they kind of speak the same language. Mm-hmm. And again, if they don't, that's okay. A lot of people choose to just take each day as an experiment. I just found these were some examples that did a really nice job of going through a concept. So for example, we've got on the top left, Best Caleb ever. So he's done a very type-focused series. So he hasn't played around with effects or anything. I think this was his last year. But there's a certain style that he's given to each of his letters. So they do fit together, even though it's not like he's stuck to one color or he hasn't added, 3D effects to everything. So it feels clean, but you can see that they all speak the same language. I guess that's even a nice example of type design. That could be a font they could all be fonts, but this one in particular, graphically, that gives me that feel. So I think that's beautiful. And then in contrast, next to that, this designer Ruchita, she's done this very illustrated series where the actual letter in each square has stayed consistent, but she's looked at the background as a way to give it this energy. And they're all totally different from each other. But then collectively, they share this language, which it's beautiful, totally different. And then with the bottom two, again, other ways to see how you could vary the style of type with, gradients and background colors, but in a way they kind of respond to each other. I also really like the bottom right one. That was from last year as well. So I think this guy's called Jonathan, and he did a really nice architectural take on letters. And they were done in a 3D program, a 3D modeling program, but then he just added this layer of illustration as well, so they feel really graphic, and the whole thing looks really cool. I'd have a poster of all of them happily. So
it pulls you in, doesn't it? You want to look closer to have to really see what's going on. Very clever. What imagination.
I know, it's so cool. So I think it's a nice way to think of starting off. If you feel kind of overwhelmed by how many styles you could go for, if you're comfortable with just jumping in and taking each day as it comes, that's amazing. And if you feel like you want a bit of something to tie in your ideas, that's legit as well. I think it can be really nice. It can be something so simple like I'm going to make them all red, or so
no, you're right. And I don't know whether it was that when I learned that you and I were doing this stream together about 36 days of type, it was almost like everywhere I looked I could see lettering or the over everything. So for example, I was looking at online shops. I was looking to buy cushions, and you can get cushions, perfectly embroidered with the letters, or mugs with a letter, or notebooks with a letter on the front. I'm seeing it everywhere. There's so much personalization that everyone's trying to sell and things like that at the moment. So this is if you want to get more inspiration, I would just say look online at personalized things as I said, cushions, mugs. Even picture frames I've seen in the last week. As I say, because my mind's aware of all of it now. Now I'm looking.
I think lettering and type design in general, it's exploded in the past 5 or so years. I think everything's become so much more accessible for just creatives to try out. So you just see creatives who have like, they might come from a sculpture background, but then they're just interested in letters, and they've just found a way to experiment with that. So yeah, again, which is what's so cool about this challenge, because it can be like your starting point into this whole world, which is so open and experimental, like it's never been. So yeah, for sure.
And it's good to see so many examples. Like, thanks for sharing these and putting these together, because as you can see, people are taking this from so many different angles. So
yeah, and I wish I could show them all. There's so many, there's thousands. But after this, if you're watching, go and check the hashtag if you haven't looked properly, and think about maybe like what you like about them that just makes them stand out to you, because it will help for your own submission as well. So I also wanted to talk a bit about effects, because of course you can design a letter or use another existing typeface, but it's also great to think about what you would add to that. So again, it's not necessary, and you might just focus on having a really nicely designed letter that just focuses on the type, and you don't want anything distracting from that, and that's beautiful. But if you are at a point where you're thinking about adding effects, then there's so many. So it's kind of just cool to run through some of these. And yeah, I've just listed some on the left, but it really just keeps going. I mean, you can explore colors, textures, you can make something 3D, you can add shadows, like drop shadows, you can add beveling and detailing on top of the letter. And then you've got just all these just extras that you can give character to your letter. So again, not necessary, but it's a really fun month to try these out, or like, anything. And I guess another good thing is you can also use effects to maybe differentiate your letters from every day. So I don't know, let's say you could try a 3D effect for A, but then you want to do like a crazy drop shadow for B. It can be a way to explore different effects and detailing, which you don't usually do for projects or in your own time. So it's there. So these ones that I liked, I thought they were good examples. The top left is from Alec Tier, who did a beautiful series last year. So he had a really nice like blue and pink color palette, but then all of his characters had a very three-dimensional feel, but they felt handmade as well. So it's got this very subtle, gritty kind of shading. And for me, it's sculptural even. I thought he did a really nice job with that. So it's just kind of a cool way to think, okay, it can be a 1, but it can also be like a 1. It can have this really crazy mass to it. And then next to that, this guy, Andre, he's used photography, like a more collage kind of style, to bring life to this letter, to this number. And it's so different. So it's not something that was, I don't know actually if he might have designed the 2, but he might not have. So it might be a route you're more comfortable with if you want to like Photoshop stuff and then just see where it takes you. And that's also like completely different route, but that's there.
It's so good though, very powerful.
Yeah,
very different.
Yeah, it was quite different. His whole series was like, oh wow, each one just feels like a print you could put up, And then at the bottom too, like again, really different styles. So this bottom left one feels like, I'm not really sure exactly how it was made. It could even have been Illustrator, but it could have been a 3D program. But it's got a very sculptural feel.
Yeah.
But instead of being one letter form, it's kind of taking the character and then splitting it up and thinking how it could be made. So that was like a totally different approach. And then next to that, there's this very detailed 4, which I'm loving, with all like the, the beveling and all the shadows and just the color choice. It's like stunning for me. But it's just an example again, like you've got 4 such different takes on numbers.
Yeah.
And again, like it's just endless how many ways you could try it. But yeah.
No, it looks good. Good to see more examples for sure.
Yeah. Oh, they're moving. And then just to add to that, and you might jump to this point straight away, you might be even interested in animating them or bringing type into like a motion software like After Effects, or designing something 3D. So these are all like kind of additional ways to elevate your letter. So again, it can be like a flat image, but you can also breathe a whole new level of life into them. So if there is maybe like a software you wanted to try out or something you've always wanted to explore more, then this could also be a great month for that, because it could just push you to try something you didn't. So yeah, I love these ones as well. They're all very, like, they're so different from each other, but they've just been very considered, and they look like they took a lot of time. But I love it. Like, I love that ampersand on the bottom right.
I know, I can't stop staring at it. It's the fingernail on it. I can't, I can't stop. My eyes are drawn to it.
Yeah, they did this whole series with like different skin tones and stuff as well. So they just so cool to look at. But yeah, so hopefully that gives you an idea of maybe where you might want to start out if you've never entered in this challenge before. So yeah, helpful to think about concept. Are you lettering your own character, and are you going to add anything to that? And of course, there's always stuff to add. So
definitely. Yeah. And Annika says in the chat, how do you come up with different ideas for all of the 36 days for animation things? Like, as you said, it's just sketching, right? And just sitting, doodling, having an idea.
Yeah, again, I think it's really helpful to think about what you're trying to push in the challenge. So maybe it is just to think about the type design and how quirky you can make your letters look. Or maybe your focus is more on, can I, are the letters themselves more simple, but do I want to focus on how they're animated differently every day? I think of course, it's a lot more time intensive and you need a lot more planning if you're going to go for very, very, advanced developed posts for every day. So you don't need to hit all of there's no like criteria to hit necessarily. So just give yourself a brief if that helps, and think, am I going to focus on, type, or exploring colors, or exploring new software, or, do I want to like pull out my Posca pens and then just use those to see how crazy I can get with them. But yeah, of course, like, again, as I said, you will learn something no matter what. There's no wrong way to do it.
Totally. And there are people in the chat that are sharing some work and sharing links that are getting involved in this 36 days of type. So it's really good to share. Keep sharing, everyone.
Yeah.
Like, keep adding it in, it's so good.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, hopefully we're all feeling more inspired now.
Definitely.
Okay, so today is actually the 3rd day of the challenge, which means we'd be making the letter C. So yeah, I've always liked the letter C. It just stands for so many cool words. So I always think every year, like, should I do like a cookie or like a cake but yeah, I'm not going to do that this year. But here we are. So I have been playing in Illustrator with 36 days so far. And there are some tools that I've been kind of exploring because I don't usually use those in my own work. I've got more of a hand-drawn or cleaner kind of feel. So I've tried to move away a little bit from my natural style. So I'm excited about that. So we'll be doing a C together. And to kick it off, I've got a very crude sketch. So this is not my best sketch, but again, helpful to kind of see something to start with, because I am going to pull this into Illustrator, and we are going to work at creating a vector shape from this, and then we'll see how we can play with that to give it its own character. So I guess like if you were going to ask what style of type this would be, it definitely feels more experimental. So maybe more in the display category, but also a script. So
yeah,
it's got this, swash just around the C that pulls around. And I kind of like that with the C. It's sometimes my favorite part of drawing a C, which otherwise can be a very, very simple character, because you could even just, have a very clean rounded stroke. So we'll try with this shape and see how it goes. And let's go on to Illustrator.
And do you so you use Illustrator on your Mac or PC or on the iPad or both?
So I have used it on the iPad and it's amazing. So I recommend trying it out if you haven't yet. Today I'm going to be on the iMac. So for me, it just gives me a bit of better control over the final points and anchor points. But yeah, the iPad is pretty awesome. If there's anyone who wants to try it.
Cool. It is good. Definitely.
Yeah. So I'm going to just close that and these. And I'm going to open up Illustrator. So we're going to create a new document, of course. And usually with Instagram, they don't want like huge sizes. So it's fine to keep it for under web quality. So we're going to go with these measurements. You can go bigger, but I'll just keep it at 1080 by 1080 pixels. So it's a square. And make sure as well that your color mode is set to RGB, because then we can get brighter colors, which we want. And it's fine as well here to keep it to screen resolution. So you don't need to go to, the print 300 quality. So screen's cool. And let's open it.
Oh, Tim's cracked a joke in the chat right now. It says, what's a pirate's favorite letter of the alphabet? And Gareth replies, R.
Oh, I was gonna. Okay,
it could be C as well. Now. Yeah, it could be C. They love the C. Yes,
I thought it was a C joke.
That's what I thought. Oh,
no, it's R. R is better. Okay, so here we are. I've got my artboard here, and I'm gonna pull in the sketch that I did, which is in my binder. It's called C. I cleaned my desktop for you guys today.
Oh, I need to do that. No.
Spring cleaning.
Awful, my desktop.
Oh yeah, tell me about it. It's always my desktop. So I made my sketches already square. So I've made that central, and I'm gonna be tracing over the sketch. So the first thing I'm gonna do is bring the opacity down so that I can see what I'm doing on top. So I'll bring it down to like 20. In general, if you're going to have a lot of stuff happening in a piece, it's always recommended to use layers, just so you can keep things organized. You don't accidentally move something or delete something. But for what I'm doing today, it's not going to be as heavy, I think. So I'm fine to basically lock this sketch, and I'll just start drawing directly on that. So if you go to Object, Lock, Selection, obviously make sure it's selected, and then you can't move it. So we're good to go.
And then Emily, do you ever work in grid at all when you're doing the type? Like, do you think that's a good practice to set grids if people are doing letters?
I think a lot of the time it is. If I was doing a more structured letter that I knew needed to sit on a baseline, it needed to be a certain height, and especially if you're making multiple letters that need to, somewhat, I'd say, match, then it's really helpful to have your own grid. I don't personally use the grid settings on Illustrator, but I might, for example, if you Apple R and you get the ruler, I might then pull down my own baseline, and then I can then set my own limits for how, tall I want each letter to go. In the case of this one, because it's a rounded letter and it's sitting on its own, I don't mind as much. So I'm going to delete those.
That's a good tip though. What did you use to bring that grid out, or the ruler out? How did you bring that out?
So if you Apple R, it's for your ruler, R, So you can hide them. Oh no, it's still there. Oh yeah. And then if you just click on the ruler, you can then pull out as many as you want. So I actually use that a lot. It's really helpful sometimes just to, if you need to balance stuff, and then you can select them and move them or delete them.
Amazing.
So yeah, I love that tool.
Tip. I've put that down. I've written that down in my book.
Nice. Okay, so now we're ready to start drawing our letter. So I'm going to go to the pen tool here. What I've done also, which I find helpful, is I've pulled out this window from the pen icon. So it's usually not outside, but if you hold down on it, oh, not this one. If you hold down on that and then you see this just arrow next to it, then you can pull it out. So I just find that helpful. So I've got my pen tool, and I think sometimes it can be a bit fiddly to get used to the pen tool. Again, like with my C, I'm kind of comfortable with it feeling a bit more experimental, so I'm not going to get too worried this time about like how perfect and technical it is. Plus I've got my sketch, so I'm going to start clicking. So I'll start from here, and I'm going to also just press shift in this case so that I have a straight edge to finish here at the C. And then I can click at the bottom. And then if you hold down and drag, then your anchor points will extend, and that's how you'll get a curve. You can click here. In this case, I might see if I can make it to the top, which I can. I'm going to click here again, maybe just here. And it's just a bit of playing, really. If you have a sketch underneath, I think it's usually helpful because then you can see what you're trying to follow. Actually, I'm going to just boost the there so you can see it. So I can see it's getting just the outline of my C, which is cool. Maybe then I will, from here, start to cave in a bit. So now I'm creating the opening of my C. Oh, and another really good tool, which I love, it's called the anchor point tool. So if you do click on a point and then you decide later that you want to get those handles to then drag out the curve, then you can click on that, and then that helps you edit it much more easily.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to refine it.
Yeah, it's really good to have a sketch, isn't it? It's so fast as well. Like you've nearly completed all that already on there.
Yeah, so again, like sometimes letters are just they can be more complicated, especially the scripts if they've got lots of things just swishing around. But sketching I definitely recommend. I'm kind of thinking ahead. I might kind of close that. Oops.
See, I'm just thinking of my letter C that I'm going to do, and it has to involve my favorite thing, which is cake. So I'm going to have to do some kind of C around cake in some way.
Hey, I didn't know you're joining the challenge. What are you going to make your C on?
Fresco. I love
fresco is so much fun.
Yeah, I absolutely love it.
And I also hear that it's your birthday week, so
it is my birthday week. Yes, I'll be eating a lot of cake this week. Yeah, can't wait. Yeah, tomorrow's the day. So colourful cake, Andrew asks. Always colourful cake, yes. Although, do you love a carrot cake? That's
I love carrot cake.
Maddy the pirate is starting, Sean says. Oh, yeah. Love it. Yeah. Well, Katie says, happy birthday. Thank you, Katie.
So I'm just going to zoom out. So that was pretty quick to do. And I'm just going to drag the artboard to the side so I can just see how that looks without the sketch underneath. And I also really like doing that, just making new artboards and versions just so I can compare between them and keep things organized. And I'm kind of happy with this as a starting base because it's pretty much based on my sketch, so it doesn't feel as much refining to do. I think with the effect I might want to try for this. This might be a problem, but I will see how that goes. So I might make actually one version as well without this swash. So just gonna cut that off and then close this gap.
Nice.
So yeah, I guess there's two sort of variations here. Might go with that.
They both look good.
Thanks. Okay, so from here, I'm pretty much happy to start playing with this. So one thing I started exploring with this year's challenge was the blend tool. So I've used the blend tool on lots of other types of things, but not in this kind of style with letters. So I'll kind of show you what I mean. So with my A and my B this year, I used this tool to give this more of a 3D feel, but I really liked the gradients I was exploring. So I think I'm going to run with something similar for the C. So I'll show you how I do that. And maybe there's a way I can make it a little bit different because, of course, it's nice to make each one a bit unique as well. So I'm going to come back to here. And again, just so I can keep one artboard with the original outline of the shape, I'm just going to make a new version here. And I think I'm going to make it a bit bigger as well. And I'm also going to make sure it's in the middle of my artboard. Okay, group that. So here. Okay, so I've selected this, and now we're going to go to the blend tool, which is a pretty awesome tool. And how it works is if you were to take two objects or two instances of the same object, it will create every layer that you need to fill in that gap. So it kind of makes it 3D, but instead of it being actually 3D, it's like there's many 2D shapes in between. So it's got this layered feel, which is cool. So just to show you how that works, if let's say I pull my C out here, you can see that. If you highlight both of them, and then you go to Object, Blend, and then Make, then it will try to fill in this gap. This is not how I want it to look. So of course, we're going to go back to Object, Blend, and then Blend Options. And here you've got a little menu to help you choose more specifically what you want from this. So you can choose how many C's you want in the middle, or you can also specify, the distance. So whoa, that's kind of the opposite. So here there's so many that I can't even see what's in between. So I'm going to try upping the distance so that there's more space between them.
Laura in the chat says she loves the blend tool. First time I've seen it. This is the first time.
Oh, cool. It's addictive. So yeah, if you're a fan of stacked type, this is one way to do that. So yeah, I wanted to show you how that actually works if you haven't seen it. But I think with this specific letter, rather than create maybe that kind of effect with it, I want there more to be of a popping out sort of effect. So I want it to feel as if the letter is coming from, you know, a much further away point. So I can do that in the same way. I'm just going to make this second C smaller, and I'll place it here for now. Also, just make sure that your larger C is in front, because that can just help. Select both of them, and back to my blend tool. It's not what I want, so back to blend options, and go to specify distance. Whoa, too much. Let's try 12, maybe 15. So you can also go back to this at any point and play around with it.
Cool. You can see it taking shape. It looks
good. Yeah, it just automatically just gives this dimension to it without it feeling like it's actually 3D. It still feels hand-drawn in a way, which is really nice. But yeah, of course, looking at it right now, I can't really see the shape of my C. So another cool thing with this tool is actually Illustrator, once you apply any effect to an object, you can still edit the object and it will update live with that. So I can click on the small C here. There it is. And if I move that, I can see the relationship between those two objects change just live. So that gives me a better feel for, you know, what my final shape can look like. So for example, I think I like it in the middle because it's created this depth in the opening of the C. And then also just looking at this edge here, I like that it's kind of flattened it out. So I might even keep it here because it's suddenly given this balance to the letter, which is cool. So I'm gonna just exit out of that for now. And then also, if you wanted to make edits to the letter form, you can still do that. So if you feel like, oh, you know, this stroke here, it's too thin, I want to make it fatter, you know, you can play with that. And I do suggest that as well. So I think once you use a tool on any program, like just be aware of what that's done. And if you want to make edits, just think about the final shape as well and what that's doing to that. So I might, for example, bring this in a bit. I kind of like having this contrast now on the sides and then having it thinner.
Lots of people loving your work here in the chat. Everyone said, looks really cool. Jackie says, that's great. Laura says, looks great. Faisal says, wow. Really good. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. The blend tool is pretty awesome. So there's a lot of ways to explore it. So yeah, maybe try it out for one of the days. So I'm just going to kind of see what effect this gives me. And maybe for now, I'll just recenter that. And then coming to think of it, I did like having this swash around my C. So maybe it's something I can even add on the side just separately. So I think now quickly what I'll do is maybe from here, I'm going to just draw something kind of simple that can extend. So I don't know how this is going to look when it's made 3D, but again, we can always go back and edit this. I'm going to take this shape, shrink it down, maybe move it somewhere like here. So yeah, let's play with this. I'm going to click both and I'll go back to my blend tool, make blend options. You can also go to blend options and then make it. Okay.
So good. And for everybody that's watching us today, we're live in Behance and we have about 30 minutes left of our masterclass today, which is focusing on the 36 days of type, and we're doing the letter C. Any questions that you have for Emily, pop them in the chat. Anything you want to see, for anything you want to see. With the puns.
All the letter jokes are coming out today.
Gareth's normally our pun leader, or Tim as well. some good ones, but did it without even knowing it. But yes, so any questions you have today, get them in the chat. Honestly, it'd be great to hear from you.
Love it. I always love a good pun. Actually, when I'm stuck on what to letter, sometimes I'll just find something really punny and I'll be like, yeah, this is, can't go wrong.
Can't go wrong.
So I'm just like playing with this again. I might even just kind of close the smaller shape just so there's a stronger effect of the perspective here. And just, yeah, always remember to zoom out and think about, do I like, the overall shape? And like these shadows that have come out of it. And in general, like, yeah, you can keep playing with it. But actually maybe bring that down. So yeah, are we happy with so?
It's so good. And Laura asks, do you only work in vector or also in raster?
So Illustrator is a vector program. So if you're going to be using Illustrator, I recommend creating vector art because I think it's really geared for that style. And then that way you can also be any size you want. But I do a lot of digital painting as well. So when I do that stuff, it might not be on Illustrator. Let's say it's on Adobe Fresco or Procreate. I use a lot on the iPad. So that with all digital painting, like that's all like raster, because it's just all pixels. There's no vector shapes in those.
Yes.
So, but yeah, they're both fine, especially for Instagram, of course. So I'm now going to make a new version, and I think it will be fun maybe to look at color and see what we can do here. I think that's the best part of the whole thing. It's like picking colors.
Oh, definitely. I mean, as anybody that's watched any streams with me in the past knows that you need sunglasses on when I get stuck into color. It will burn onto your screen if I'm drawing. So be lucky today that, I'm not drawing.
Love it. So I usually have my swatch or color box open, but I'm just going to open it here. So you can open your color box. You can have swatches if you want to save the colors that you're working with, or if there's specific ones.
Yeah.
If you have, I think if I was to have, actually for any project where you need to stick to, let's say, brand colors or like your 3 favorite colors, and you know that they're going to be the same colors and you're not choosing new ones, then I recommend using swatches just to save those colors or color libraries. And then that way you'll always be using consistently the same colors. So in this case, I'm just picking them by the day, but it depends on what your concept is. So another kind of thing I didn't mention is this whole time, what's kind of helped with this effect particularly is that it stayed in like a stroke mode. So meaning it's not filled in as a shape, because if I were to do that, you'd kind of lose this whole effect. So I do like that I've got all the contours of the letters and then I can see them, because that's what's given this depth to it. So as you can see, if you change your colors, it's totally like open for you. Actually, you should select from both probably. So yeah, you've just got everything there. I mentioned before, I personally like warm colors, and I'm really big on reds and pinks and stuff. Yeah. So I'm going to add a background color here first. Maybe something not too dark, but you can see, of course, like black or something like instantly gives us this very
oh wow,
X-ray vision kind of look. But I'm just gonna go with something maybe softer.
Nice. And do you ever do, so I think in the last one, in the bee that I saw you did, it almost looked like a gradient that was over the bee. So would you need
Yeah.
a couple of colors in there, or I mean, I love
Yes,
the pink. Yeah.
I definitely want to, because it just looks like so much. I think it just adds this, again, this maybe 3D feel without it being actually 3D. It's almost like there's this shine to it. So that's really cool. So I'm gonna click on that, and to get your gradients, you need to go to your gradient panel. I don't know why it's actually giving me this. It's a bit weird. Doesn't usually do this. I just want to select it. I don't know what's yeah. Let me see if this one's the same. This one's also the same.
Stuart shared a tip in the chat. So in Illustrator, if you hold the tilde key, Tilde key, whilst using a shape, you can get crazy blend effects. And I don't know if that's just a Mac thing or a
what the tilde key is.
I know. But I think, hold on, let me see. Stuart has mentioned that it's the key above Control, I think he says. Here we are. Having a look, scrolling up the chat here. Try and find it. Same key. Sandrine says same key to dissociate the pattern from the pattern brush. Yeah. It's next to the Z, the Z key.
Oh, I never knew the name of that.
Next to that. Yeah, me too. You learn something new every day.
Yeah. So if you click down on that, what was that?
It's the button. Yeah, Stuart, pop it in the chat for us. Gareth says tilde key. I mean, I don't know if that's Tilde. Anyone knows how to pronounce that? Pop it in.
Tilde.
The tilde key. Yeah, it's the little symbol that kind of looks like a mustache. It kind of goes along.
Yeah. That's cool. I never knew what it was.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, one opening. Okay, so I don't actually know why this is being really weird for me, because usually I can edit this gradient, but can't right now, and that's kind of weird. But
yeah, it's grayed out, isn't it? It's not letting you select.
Yeah.
Maybe it's one object at a time, Laura says.
Yeah, it's done this to me once before, and it might have been something I accidentally selected. Oh, here we are. So I think what I did actually was I accidentally selected something which shouldn't have been there. It might have been an extra point or something. But now I have my window. It's okay. So sorry about that, but we live and learn. But I've clicked on them both. So this is basically what I want to see finally. So I've got on my gradient box, I've got this slider. So now what this means is I can select the colors that I want to be as part of the gradient. And then I've got all the options to play around with that. So that's really cool. So this is black and white. So if you get that kind of, that's also weird. Usually like gives you the RGB option. Okay, hopefully we can change it on. Oh, here we are. Okay, we're good. Okay, so if you click on your color, then you can straight away see how your gradient changes.
Love it.
If you slide around. So slide around, yeah, have fun. We'll just try it now like pink just to see how it looks, but it might not be pink. And for the other color, go with like red, for example. I don't know, orange. Nice. I really like pink and orange. So I'm going to click out of that. And again, here you can click on these other icons and see how it responds to this specific shape. And it's going to respond a bit differently. It won't look flat like on this preview window, because on this actual object, it's kind of wrapping around itself. So it's just like, let's kind of get a happy accident, basically. So for example, like that's a totally different feel. Like the red is all in the inside, and then it's got like a smoother transition outside. This is kind of blended everything because it's across the stroke. I mean, this kind of feels kind of like this. Another kind of way to look at it is you can also have this radial gradient, which means you have one color transitioning into the next, but it's coming from the center. Mm-hmm. So that's also kind of interesting with this, because it's kind of put one color in the middle of this whole shape, and then it transitions into the orange. So that looks really cool. And then here you can, of course, you can slide and then choose, you know, how pink is the whole thing or how orange is the whole thing. You can add another color. Yeah. So I think with this series, this is like maybe a general style I'm gonna explore, but like it would be really cool to animate some of the letters down the line, or just see like what other kind of things I can do with this idea. But it's kept kind of simple now, because I really like the idea of having a quirky shape and then just seeing how it kind of plays with itself. But at this point, like everything starts to look really cool. So you're kind of like, oh, where do I kind of stop?
And that's a good question, actually. Where do you stop? Like when do you decide that enough is enough and that you need to step away?
I don't honestly know how everyone else does it. I'm the kind of person who'll keep messing around, and I need to tell myself done is better than perfect, because there is no perfect. It's just whenever you feel happy with something. So it's a very personal question, I guess. Do you find that, like, when you're playing around on fresco, are you just like, oh, when is it finished?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I live in Rush and Premiere Pro at the moment, and so I guess I do have to step away from my projects a good couple of times, because there's always little bits I want to trim that I think, oh, that would just be a little bit better if I. So and I at least leave the project twice. So I'll go to another room in the house, have a cup of tea, bit of cake if there's cake, and then come back and then look at, and then I'll after I've come back twice, then I'm like, no more now.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I recommend like leaving some space.
Yeah.
Like, go make a coffee, wait a few hours, work on something else, and then have a fresh look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
And then for this also as a specific piece, I wanted to also edit the actual stroke of this. So I don't know where my properties window went. Just move.
David's got a good point in the chat there, that it's good to set a final timer or a deadline always, David, because we could carry on, right?
Ooh, that's always. A good. I'm very bad at that. Yeah.
I'm bad at that. Yeah, I'm bad at that. This is looking so good. I'm loving the lines. I love the fact that it looks 3D, but it's not. Like it just looks so good. There's so much you can do here. And I've never seen the blend tool like this. Never. Really good to see.
Yeah. Like, again, I use it more for like stacked type if I want to use it for a poster and I want that repeated look, like for titles and stuff. But I've never really tried it in this way. So it's not something I usually think of doing, but yeah.
And so you mentioned that when you were looking at the 36 days of type, that this is something you were trying out this year. Are all of your letters and numbers going to follow this kind of principle with the blend tool, or are you going to?
I think it won't really stay exactly the same, because I'd like to kind of keep trying other ways to create that dimensionality. But I do still want to design my own letters, and that's always been a big interest of mine. So actual type design and just keeping them all really chunky and funky and like just very experimental, I guess. So I can't say for now like what the rest of it will look like. So yeah, Maddy, this might be because of my changed screen resolution, but I can't find my properties window.
Oh.
Anyone knows where it's
must be. Is it pulled out as a separate like a pop-up, and it'll be behind your screen perhaps? Sometimes I have that with the navigator panel. I have to drag it back in to the
my God, it's here.
That's what happens all the time to me. It's always the navigator I have to drag back in.
Yeah, it's crazy. Okay, well, here I am. That's how it normally looks like for me. So I'm going to zoom back in. Okay. So one thing I've also felt, and these are not my final colors. So I think before I post this, I'm going to maybe just play a bit more with how I want it to look. And I want it to look a bit different from my A and my B this week. But I might also consider making the actual lines a little bit thicker, which you can do. So of course, like that might be like, it's a very different look, which is also kind of cool. But that might be something to explore. And also the cool thing with the stroke options is you can even edit all of these as well. So one thing that I'm thinking of for here is maybe instead of a uniform stroke, which will keep the thickness of the stroke consistent throughout, you can also, pick a different shape for it. So it might actually end up getting thinner in some points. And just depending on the letter or whatever you're using it for, that could just look different every time. But yeah, that's my C for today, I guess. And what I would do from here, as I said, I would play with the colors, and then just see if there's something else I could add, maybe like another shape behind it. Some of the other letters as well, like you've got the R and the K, the way that those letter forms extend, they can kind of just wrap around the whole shape. Like they can get very quirky. So that might be really fun to explore with some of the other letters.
Yeah, and I could see the way that you draw, as I mentioned at the start, like I love how you draw women, and they always have this lovely bouncy hair that kind of goes up, and I can imagine you getting like like how you flick the top of the C up to the side there. I can really imagine you incorporating like a lady into this. There's like really bouncy hair.
I'd love to. That would be really cool. I've never really connected my type style to my doodling style, but that is something I've always wanted to do. I don't know if anyone else feels like they've got two different worlds of what they do creatively, but for me right now, they feel quite separate. But that could be a cool thing to explore.
That would be cool. No, definitely. It's so good to see this. And then how would you export this? Because you would export this to go to Instagram, right? Or
so the nice thing as well, like just automatically it being square and not being a huge file, it's already quite Instagram friendly. But from here, I'd export as let's export it to here. Let's call it 36. So I usually export as a JPEG, but you can also as a PNG. I guess I'm on the last artboard. And here, and you might need to play with this, but usually I'm okay with, definitely RGB. I'm okay with the quality on 10. And it's usually okay with me for these sorts of posts to keep it on high. And it kind of makes me feel like it's actually like it hasn't compromised the file size or anything. Mm-hmm. But having said that, there are sometimes images I work on that are very, very graphic heavy, or illustrations that have a lot going on in them, and it makes them very heavy files. So if you export that and you just see the file size is too big, then that's not really ideal for you to upload on Instagram or to share. So you can always take that down to screen resolution. And it shouldn't compromise the quality of what you've done. So yeah, either of those. In this case, with my last two, they were okay with this one. But if you have like a very, very heavy file, or if you're painting or just, have like loads of layers, then just take it down to screen. But that should be good.
Good tips. Good tips. Well, yeah. So this, I mean, this has been so good. Getting into letter C, it would be good. Could you bring up the calendar again, just to look at when this finishes? The 36 days of type. We're on day 3 right now, and if you haven't started already, just get sketching, get going, right?
Yes,
there we go.
Got so many days left. It's just the beginning. And again, like, even if you want to just join in for a few days here and there, or like do one a week, try like maybe one letter, one number. Loads of people can't commit to every day, and that's okay. That doesn't mean that you've lost the opportunity. So if you have time today, try it today.
No, definitely. And as we mentioned earlier on, Adobe is giving away 6 12-month subscriptions to Creative Cloud. And so
that's amazing.
It's so good though, isn't it? Because there's so many, with our all apps, there's so much that you can do. You can experiment in 3D, and you can use Illustrator, and Fresco and Photoshop. So definitely get stuck in. And I can see in the chat already, people are getting really stuck in. They have shared some work already in the chat today. Please share it in Discord later, because that's where we'll chat following the stream. Stuart says, I've done tomorrow's. Ooh.
Oh, you're ahead of me.
Interesting. Someone says Stuart the cheater. But get yours in there. Jackie's just drawn an A. So just get started, get sketching, get doodling. As Emily said at the start, it's always good just to just begin, and even if you're drawing digitally or in a notebook, a pad and pen, whatever you've got to hand.
Yeah, doesn't matter. Even if you wanted to say, like, I'm gonna make it out of clay, and then I'm going to, stick it in Photoshop and like turn it blue with the alien texture. Cool. I mean, like, there's so many ways you can make letters.
You can. And it's so good to have a challenge like this, really, because I remember when Inktober happened around October time, and I got really stuck in at the beginning, and then I kind of lagged a bit in the middle because it was a busy month and we had Halloween and all the bits, to prepare for, and then I kind of caught up at the end. But it's nice to have a project like this to get stuck into and actually try new things. Like, I'm going to try the blend tool. I've put it all down in my book today.
So cute.
I love it, honestly. I just make notes and then I go away and try it. But yeah, and try new tools, right? So if you've never used 3D before, now's your time to try it. If you've never used Fresco and want to sketch and get stuck in, hand lettering and stuff, get stuck in, right?
Definitely. Like personally for me, as I said, when it comes to vector lettering, I tend to keep things very clean. And I don't add lots of effects and things, but I thought maybe this is a time when I can actually do something a bit out of my comfort zone. So it's just the beginning, and there are kind of other ways I want to start playing with this route. So if you're, on Instagram, you can link up with me, like, just keep in touch, see what I try and do. I want to see what you do. And yeah, it's nice, as I said, to kind of start with a concept, but there's also something really cool about growing from it. So at the end, you can see maybe some difference in from where you started. So again, you're going to learn something. You won't lose nothing. So
no,
yeah,
it's so true. You've shown us so much today. And Cheryl says in the chat, great work, Emily. Loving the blend and gradient combo style. I must get onto my letter C this afternoon, and shared Instagram in there as well.
Yeah, awesome.
It's so good. So good. Well, it's been really great to have you on today, Emily. I've loved catching up with you. It's been a year almost since you and I.
You too, Maddy. And for this as well, like, it's one of the coolest things. Like, we're talking about type, and we're talking about this challenge, which is, it's not too technical, and it's not for, type designers, and you can join in from any perspective and range of experience. So it's just really feel good. So we won.
It is. And I would say, we've got such a great community. And if you ask any questions in the Discord chat following this, there's so many people that are experts in so many different products that can always help as well. So if you want to get stuck in, we'll put the Discord link back in the chat again, so that you can join. If you're new to the stream today, come and join us in there, as we've got so many great experts. And of course, Adobe Live will continue this week. We've got another session on Friday. And so it's our Out of Your Comfort Zone with Natalie and Tony Aranda. And they'll be covering some really cool topics with our collaboration between OB and OFF as well. So there's lots more to look forward to.
Sounds so cool.
Indeed. Well, it's been lovely to catch up, Emily. Thank you for all of you joining our masterclass today. It's been fun. Try it, share it on Discord, share it on Instagram. We'll all be following Emily on Instagram to see the finished result of today's session. And we'll speak to you all soon.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Maddy.
All good. Bye, everyone.
Bye.